Hello, Joe Bush from Void Spiral Entertainment here, back with another art video for Oubliette 2nd edition. This is a quick time lapse of this goblin illustration right here. The original illustration took an hour and 40 minutes. We're going to be playing it back in about 5 minutes, which will be 20 times speed or thereabouts. We're going to show the full process from the beginning to end, so let's get right to it. Okay, so the first stage is clearly a sketch. Sometimes this is more of a gesture, sometimes it's more of kind of a rough, but I always start with a very large brush block out of the basic shapes. And then I move on to this refined stage where I've knocked back the rough and I'm going in there and kind of detailing out the individual actual lines and kind of tightening up the shapes and working on the design a bit. It's usually where I'm dressing up the characters as well, and working on the the smaller details than just the rough shapes. So then sometimes I work into this tone stage, which allows me to kind of plan out the rest of the image a little bit more, which can also help later on with the various line work that I'll end up doing, which starts next. You can see here that I'm kind of just bumbling through a lot of the line work, quick and messy, and then kind of refining it as I go. Sometimes I'll do a different refinement pass later on. Sometimes I won't. I'm also working out some of the other little design elements. You'll see in a bit I will go back to that little goblin's eye and give him some kind of goggle type thing over one eye, I guess a monocle type thing. And you can see that I'm zooming in and out a lot and using that the large scale image to move around the image and get an idea of how things are looking overall so that I don't get too deep into one section. Here's the goblin's little eyepiece thing. So that I don't get too deep into one particular section and hyper detail that without paying attention to the entire rest of the image. So then I do a little bit more refinement going through and, fixing things up as I see them. Sometimes I'll go back to areas, sometimes I'll jump around a lot. The pen that I'm using here is intended to kind of emulate the look of an actual gel roller type pen, so it kind of allows me to get some messy lines. So that little pass there was allowing me to do some thicker line work around the front edges, and now I'm into some more detail work, the little hatching and dot elements that help kind of texturize the line work, kind of characterize the Oubliette art style in general. And I'm going through and putting hatching in to help add some depth and, like I said, texture and some hair to make that guy, give him a little bit more character. So now I've moved on to the color phase here. I changed the background to a tone that's closer to the paper color so that I can see better how this is going to look against the actual paper. I like working on a dark background for my line work. It's easier on the eyes, but this allows me to get a more accurate picture of how this is going to look in the final. Sometimes I'll flip back and forth with the rough. So that little purple there was my actual shadow color, and I'm going in and just really blasting that shadow all over everything, because I'll come back through in a little bit and you'll see that I'm kind of refining some of that there. Come back through and erase out some parts to round out the shapes and things like that. So there's some of that right there on the hand, some of that going into the eyebrows there, and the face. So I usually try to work with my shadow color first to knock back the image and kind of establish the tone and shading, and then I usually do my lighting pass second here, and sometimes I'll do a third lighting pass that we'll see in a bit. But this allows me to establish things first and then work with tone and color a little bit later. So here's the second lighting pass, which, you know, gives it a little bit more character and depth to it. And so there we are. Very last bit is establishing some shadows under the bottom. And that's the entire illustration of the Goblin for Oubliette 2nd edition. I might do a few more of these videos in the future. If you would like to see some, let me know on the Oubliette 2nd edition Kickstarter page, or on Discord, or on Twitter. Thanks. See you next time.